Hey everyone, I'm Chris, and I'm here to rank Game of Thrones Season 5 from worst to best. Season 5 is the most controversial season of the show. Many see it as a worse season, with slow plot lines, unfair character deaths, and quote-unquote bad writing. But on the flip side, it has one of the most popular sequences of the entire show. To me, this season is the dark season. Every character is put through hell, and many of them fail to meet their ultimate goals in this season. This season also begins the tale of Jon Snow rising to become the hero he is destined to become. So, time to see if I agree with the internet that this season is a worst one. At number 10 we have Episode 3, High Sparrow. It's not bad of an episode. The slowest in many ways. It doesn't stand out as a weak episode at all, actually. I just have to put one on the bottom so this one gets it. In all fairness, a lot of the first half of this list is gonna just blend together. I mean, most of these episodes are just solid and nothing more, really. However, High Sparrow actually has a fair amount of standout moments. This first one is kinda dumb, I'll admit, but I still laugh. Tommen and Margaery consummate their marriage. Margaery's so hot, don't deny it, and Tommen is what, 16? He's just so sweet and innocent, and you always wondered, are they gonna show their sex scene? Well, kinda. Tommen wants to do that all day, every day. I mean, don't we all? My man. Next, Jon Snow executes Janos Slynt. Silver moment. God, this is one execution that plays pay the iron price that we cheered for. I love how, in the background, they've actually built up this moment the entire series. In Season 2, Jon couldn't execute Ygritte. In Season 3, he couldn't execute the old man. And here we have him struggle to execute Janos. Is Jon tough enough to be Lord Commander? Can he make the hard choices and do what needs to be done, even if it's messed up? Yup. And Stan is given the tiniest nod in the history of the universe as the cherry on top. Finally, another small moment, Tyrion rejects a whore. After everything he's been through, he finds himself unable to do it, and it's pretty sad. It really shows how much Shay's betrayal affected him, and you really feel bad for Tyrion. Number 9. Episode 1, The Wars to Come. It's not Game of Thrones if we don't start slow. This premiere has the tough job of establishing the world after the huge changes from Season 4. In a way, we are now in the second half of the whole story, so we got a lot of slow building moments, but I still find everything very interesting and entertaining. Once again, because we're so deep into the series, we're all familiar with these characters, so there's not much exposition to get through as there were in earlier seasons. This episode has a couple stand-up moments that all belong to the Jon Snow storyline. He takes control right away this season as the most interesting story in my eyes, partially due to all the characters currently stationed at Castle Black. I love having him be part of the bigger picture of the world rather than separated from everything like he has been for 4 seasons now. His last meeting with Mance is a standout moment because I really like these two characters together. We didn't get to see him much, but Mance Rayder's importance was pretty big for these 41 episodes, and we really grew to respect him like Jon does. And even though they're technically enemies, these two men are honorable and understand each other. Mance's reaction to finding out he'll be burned alive is very well acted, and the ending line is such a powerful statement that makes you instantly appreciate Mance Rayder. The freedom to make my own mistakes was all I ever wanted. Don't we all? And then we get to his burning. Time and time again, this season sets up a situation where you don't think they're actually gonna do it. They're not actually gonna kill off a character. But of course, the flames rise up and you realize this is it for Mance Rayder, until suddenly Jon shoots an arrow into his heart. Whoa! End of episode. That's a silver moment to me. This Jon Snow has grown so much and is no longer plagued with fear of what is right and should he do it. He doesn't care if he gets in trouble with the king. He's gonna do what he believes is right and stick to his guns. This is a Jon Snow I can't wait to watch this season. Number 8. Episode 4, Sons of the Harpy. Another solid episode of Game of Thrones. The action begins picking up for some storylines, like the King's Landing and Meereen storyline. Meanwhile, other stories move along very slowly, like Dorne and Winterfell. Now, despite this, I still would put this episode slightly above the previous two, because we're getting to more exciting developments and the action moves quicker. No standout moments, but the episode does end with a pretty cool action scene and cliffhanger where the Sons of the Harpy seemingly kill Grey Worm and Barristan Selmy. Many viewers had a problem with this because Barristan Selmy is meant to be possibly the greatest living swordsman in the world, and his sudden killing off served no real purpose. I both agree and disagree. First, people complain he's killed by men in cloaks with daggers, like how did they manage to kill him? But Barristan, don't forget, is way past his prime, like he's 70 at least. He hasn't had an actual fight in what appears to be years since he joined Daenerys. He's unarmored and takes on almost a dozen of them and still manages to kill all but one. I think book readers had this vision of their Barristan Selmy from the books, while the show version is just different. Sometimes things change when translating from page to screen. Barristan Selmy just wasn't as important of a character as he was in the books. Him being killed off is meant to cause chaos with Daenerys' storyline because she's just lost her best advisor and only link to her family. Could the action scene maybe have been shot a bit better to make Barristan seem more epic of a fighter and the odds really stacked against him? Probably. Maybe the actor who plays Barristan just isn't that great of a stuntsman. Maybe they ran low on time to shoot the action sequence. Maybe a number of issues occurred. People always complain when things don't go the way they envision it happening. They always expect perfection. But remember, filmmakers can only make something as perfect as they can with the time and resources they have. And sometimes things just go wrong. Sometimes there is no way to make it perfect. We'll be getting to more moments like this that people complain about season 5, and I'm gonna do my best to defend the showrunner since the internet is just so quick to hate. Number 7. Episode 2, The House of Black and White. In some ways, another premiere part 2. Other storylines continue to be quite slow, but for others, the ball gets rolling very quickly. I always appreciated how quickly Brienne and Podrick find Sansa Stark. Even though it ultimately ends in a slightly disappointing way, at least Brienne and Podrick are on the move now. Our standout moments, though, begin again in the Jon Snow storyline during the election. This is a silver moment. Samwell Tarly becomes the MVP when he announces Jon Snow to run. His comebacks and roasts towards Janos Slynt are super funny, but his powerful words towards Jon's leadership really make you realize that he does deserve it. And the big surprise of Jon actually winning sets his story into motion and makes us all cheer for our favorite brooding bastard. Finally, we end with another standout moment, this time with Daenerys, the execution of Mosador. I think that's how you pronounce it. This guy was barely around, but I completely understand where he comes from. I like him as a character, and I didn't believe that Daenerys would actually go through with it. But the clever editing tricks of having the beheading happen right away on the cut, so sudden and shocking, is a great detail. Then the hiss, which no one expected, even Daenerys, creeps me out, and it all just starts falling apart. Ruling sure is difficult. Number 6. Episode 5, Kill the Boy. Once again, we're really just getting solid episodes throughout the first half of the season, but that's kinda it. Nothing very special to make any episode stand out or be more than a green. Kill the Boy is odd because while I have no standout moments for it, I found myself enjoying it more than everything before it. It might be because this episode focused on fewer storylines. We don't see Arya, Cersei, or Jaime in this episode, which are probably my least favorite storylines anyway. We get a lot more focus on Jon, which I'm always a fan of. Kill the Boy was just another solid hour of Game of Thrones. Alright, I'm sure some of you are wondering why this episode is so high up, and I'm gonna explain why. Number 5. Episode 6, Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken. So before I get into the controversy of this infamous episode, let me just give a quick review. We get yet another solid episode of the season. I think season 5 moves very slowly, and many storylines have to take episodic breaks before we see them again. That's one of the reasons Arya's storyline and the Dorne storyline aren't well loved. But this episode does pick things up nicely, and exciting developments do occur, so I find it a more enjoyable watch than the rest before it. But okay, here's the deal. This episode is widely regarded as one of the worst episodes of Game of Thrones. It has an 8.1 on IMDb, the lowest of the series, and I honestly think it is blown way out of proportion. Every storyline is entertaining and well made. The two that everyone talks about is the Dorne storyline and Sansa's wedding. First of all, I don't love the Dorne storyline. It's slow. The acting from the Sand Sinks is weird, as if the accent is too distracting for them while performing, and Illyria's rage is immediately made unjustified because she just isn't plain likable. Every scene that she's in, she's just pissed, and that's it. That's her character. Oberyn, however, was an amazing character. He had depth. Illyria's just fine, but only remembered as his paramour. But now she gets top billing for the storyline and we're supposed to not think of her as a full-blown villain? It's odd. So I'll agree that the storyline isn't the best, but the worst thing ever? I disagree. Everyone says this fight scene is the worst fight scene ever made. It's not great, but really? The worst one ever? Season 1 and Season 2 had some meh fight scenes. This one isn't much worse. And the reason why this fight scene isn't great is because the location they were shooting in had very limited hours for filming, so they had very little time to prepare and rehearse the fight. You also have actresses that aren't stunt women or professionals in stage combat using tricky weapons like a whip and dual daggers, so the fight scene turns out to be a little underwhelming. But it's not enough to make this episode the worst of the series. In fact, I have two standout moments. First, the entire dwarf cock scene with Tyrion. This scene is hilarious. Tyrion manages to talk his way out of dying yet again, and the classic line, "The dwarf lives until we find a cock merchant." Legendary. Whoever wrote that line, bravo to you, dude. Only in Game of Thrones could someone say that line and actually be serious. And finally, Sansa's wedding night. I actually have this as a silver moment. The entire build up to this is so dark and dreadful. The scenery is beautiful, the music is haunting, fantastically made. The moment itself is very powerful and horrifying. We've seen all manners of horrible things on this show, from a man getting his head squashed like a melon, a pregnant woman being stabbed repeatedly in the belly, our hero's corpse paraded around with his head chopped off and his direwolf's head sewed onto his body, a man literally getting his dick chopped off, a baby murdered, and several kids killed on screen right in front of our eyes. But for some reason, this scene is the worst one yet. Now, people hated this. Everyone was so upset that Sansa, who has always been a victim, who was finally growing and taking control, is yet again victimized. And of course, a young woman was raped by the most horrible villain on the show, so people don't like that. But this is Game of Thrones. Horrible stuff happens all the time. Daenerys was raped in episode 2 of the show. You want to make the argument that that's different because they ended up falling in love later and Drogo was never a bad guy? Doesn't matter. She clearly didn't want it, and here it is, right in front of your eyes. They showed it all. They cut away from Sansa's because they knew it was too much to show. Sansa was finally not being a victim, so this is bad writing? Since when were character arcs supposed to be clean-cut, perfect lines? Sansa isn't automatically reduced to victim role here. The very next episode, she's immediately plotting her escape. Oh, so they cut away from it and the camera ended on Theon watching, so that makes the scene about Theon and not Sansa? Her rape is not as important as Theon's feelings? Bullshit. Showing the actual rape would be really tasteless. We don't need to see it. Theon's reactions are our reactions. We're supposed to be terrified and angry that this is happening, but not angry at the writers. Be angry at Ramsay and the unfair situation he's put Sansa in. I think people are too quick to become offended at everything on the internet, and the only reactions to something is either this is the greatest thing ever or I hate it, this is terrible. This episode is far from the worst of the series. In fact, I rather enjoy it. This is a case where I completely disagree with many fans' opinions of the episode. Sorry, I went on a little rant there. Let's just move along. Number 4, episode 7, The Gift. Now the story is moving and things are exciting. I very much enjoyed this hour of Game of Thrones. We're finally out of the slow plotting and exposition and it's kicking off. Standout moments, Aemon's death. The only on-screen death where someone just dies of natural causes. And Aemon was one of my favorite side characters. He always had great quotes and wisdom, plus a few savage moments too. His last line, "I dreamed that I was old," really leaves you with this haunting, sad feeling. Then, a twofer, Sam gets beat up. Oh, thank God we've reached this version of Sam. Even though he knows he'll lose, he still stands up for Gilly and we all root for him. Then Ghost coming in and saving him is a fun surprise. But then right after, my man Sam gets laid. This is the most hilarious and awkward sex scene I have ever seen. That little moan he lets out and then, oh my, that's a quote I repeat on the daily. Finally, the moment we all waited for, Tyrion meets Daenerys. It's short and cuts off, so it's not a silver, but the power behind this moment is still there, and I will always remember the excitement we all had waiting to see them interact with each other. The Gift is a fantastic present from the season. Number 3, Episode 9, The Dance of Dragons. What? An episode 9 that's not in the top 2? Yeah, this episode 9 lacks some of the punch that others usually have, but it still is a fantastic hour of television with a handful of moments. Jon Snow returns to Castle Black is a small moment that I just for some reason love. The image of Jon leading an army of thousands to safety really pushes the hero image he's been giving this season. After that, possibly the darkest moment of the entire show, Shireen's burning. Silver moment, mainly because it completely kills my mood every time I watch it. Shireen's actress did an amazing job with those screams, and like the season has done time and time again, they set up a horrible situation where you think there's no way they're gonna do it. No way. They are not gonna burn an innocent girl to death, and they did it. After that, we're treated to a fun duel. Yay, I'm not scarred for life. I'm perfectly fine. The quick versus strong debate is a fun little appetizer. Every character is spitting solid lines, and it's just so nice to see Tyrion joining them. After that, Jorah has a big fight scene, just classic gladiator arena combat. The choreography on the show has officially gotten good at this point, so it's nice to watch. And it's so cool seeing the different fighters and their unique fighting styles. But then, everything falls apart when the Sons of the Harpy show up. It's not exactly a moment, but I still gotta give props to this thrilling skirmish. But oh yeah, then Drogon shows up. For 4 seasons, we have waited to see a dragon kick some ass, and we finally do in this silver moment. Oh yeah, I love it when he scorches them. And then we end with another famous shot where Daenerys flies away on Drogon's back. The Dragon Queen has officially returned. Even if this episode 9 wasn't a big battle or had a huge shocking main character death, it still delivered well on its storylines and earned itself a blue. Number 2, Episode 8, Hardhome. One of the most famous episodes of the entire series. I love this episode. It's of course remembered for the entire second half taking place at Hardhome, but even the first half has some awesome developments. However, I will admit that if the entire episode just focused on Hardhome, it would definitely be a purple. Tons of standout moments, so let's go. Tyrion advises Daenerys. They finally have a scene together, yes! Tyrion goes straight to work being the smartest man in the room and doing his job. Then, a short while later, we get a one-on-one dialogue scene between the two. This is just amazing. I and many others were so happy seeing them in the same room together. Okay, and now Hardhome. We begin with a fun introduction moment of Tormund beating the Lord of Bones to death. I think this is truly when Tormund began becoming a fan favorite. After that, we get a massive negotiation scene with Jon Snow and the Wildlings. This is a silver because it puts Jon Snow at the forefront as the only man willing to work with enemies for the greater good. He has taken charge to lead these people against the White Walkers. We're also given a taste of all the different tribes and the people of the Wildlings beyond the wall. The Thens suck, Carsey's amazing, one's a cool giant. This scene has you on edge because at any moment it could fall apart if Jon says the wrong thing. It feels so rewarding though to finally have most of these characters band together after 5 seasons of warfare and hatred. Then the main event shows up. The army of the dead arrives. As soon as those dogs start howling, the hairs on the back of your neck begin to stand up. I love this shot where the doors are closed and all of the feet suddenly back away. Game of Thrones is now a horror show. The power of this Hardhome battle is that no one expected it. Usually battles are saved for episode 9s, and even then, we weren't really sure if we'd get one. The books only mentioned this battle. Jon Snow was never a part of it, so this was a surprise for everyone. And with the Game of Thrones MVP Miguel Sapochnik directing this episode, we are treated to an amazing sequence. The one shot is a small little moment. Almost every Game of Thrones battle tries to have a one shot. This one doesn't quite stack up to the 360 in last season, but it's still impressive. After that, Jon Snow fights a White Walker. Gold moment. Oh my god, I have never believed Jon Snow was going to die as much as this moment right here. This scene is just awesome, but what pushes it to a gold moment and something I'll never forget is when Longclaw blocked the White Walker blade. Not a single person watching could have anticipated that moment. Even the White Walker looks surprised. And then in 2 seconds flat, Jon Snow kills a motherfucking White Walker. Yes, I actually clapped in real life when this happened. I've never felt a more sudden rush of hype and joy. After that, we get a couple more good moments like undead children. The Hardhome sequence is just great for introducing so many new things about the Army of the Dead. Little details like the fact that, yes, children can be zombies too, gives more surprises and things to be afraid of. Speaking of which, a huge chunk of the army jumps off a cliff and then gets right back up. What? This episode really is just a magnificent horror movie. But then the ending. Jon Snow and the Night King stare down. Silver moment. It was such an amazing move to give the Army of the Dead a leader, and this version of the Night King is my favorite. I mean, his look and design is just so fucking cool. This image became possibly the most famous image of the entire show, because after all that bloody murder, it is so haunting to watch the Night King just bring them all back from the dead. Everyone's jaws dropped when this episode ended. And my number one favorite episode of season 5 is Episode 10, Mother's Mercy. The most depressing episode of the series. I love how dark this season finale is. It just never lets up. Nearly every storyline ends in tragedy, and I applaud the showrunners for having the balls to end a season like this. So much to talk about, so many standout moments. Right away, we witness Stannis' downfall. This difficult character has been a challenge to follow throughout the series, but this season placed him as the only character capable of defeating the Boltons and avenging our fallen heroes. So he became not the hero we wanted, but the hero we deserved. But everything begins falling apart for him when he receives news that half his army is gone, and all the horses are gone as well. Great, what's next? Oh, his wife hung herself. Cool. Now he's completely lost his family. Well, at least he's still... Oh no, Melisandre abandoned him too? Jesus Christ for starting off dark. And then, he marches to Winterfell. If there was still a small part of you that hoped he would succeed, I pity you, because I did too. The moment when he realizes that he's about to lose is just so powerful. That small look of regret. And then acceptance. Marching onwards no matter what, Stannis was the manus to the end. This whole silver moment also connects to his death scene. I love the desperate growl he lets out when he leans up against a tree bleeding out. This is the sound of a man who gave up everything for absolutely nothing. Then Brienne executing him and his final words just being, "Go on, do your duty," completes the most depressing character arc of the whole show. And after that, we get a small win when Reek finally rebels and saves Sansa. Silver moment! Just when you thought it was too late for him, Theon comes back. I love the sound Miranda makes when her head slams on that rock. But of course, Sansa and Theon jumping from that high up left many viewers questioning if they even survived, so we're still in depressing mode here. But next, we get the most satisfying kill ever when Arya assassinates Meryn Trant. Oh my god, this one is a silver too. She gouged out his eyes. Holy shit. Everything about this scene makes me feel so fulfilled. But then of course, we don't get to keep that fulfillment because Arya's blinded now. This scene is such an acid trip the first time you watch it. I still don't quite understand what's going on. All I know is I'm shocked and horrified and Arya's blind now. After that, we're treated to a surprisingly cute moment when Jaime admits he's Marcella's father. Aww, I'm about to tear up. This is so beautiful. Finally, we have an honest and good family dynamic on the show. Oh wait, no, Marcella's been poisoned and dies in Jaime's arms. What? Can we please just catch a break in this episode? So many twists and turns, and god, this scene hurts to watch knowing she's gonna die soon. Marcella truly was a wonderful and innocent girl. We just lost Shireen last episode, time to lose another one, I guess. After that, the main event. Cersei's Walk of Shame. Silver moment too. Yeah, we got a lot of them this episode. This sequence is a whole ordeal. Yeah, the CGI is distracting at times, but the power of the scene is still there. Lena Headey's acting is on fire here. For once, some of us actually felt bad for her character. I mean, we never cut away. We're forced to endure 6 whole minutes of cruel humiliation. Alright, that has to be the end, right? By this point, we're so drained, like what else can they do to us? Oh, you shouldn't have asked. Because this finale ends on the mother of all cliffhangers. Remember when I said there were 2 moments in the show where people said they'd given up and stopped watching because there was just no hope? The Red Wedding was the first one. The second one is Jon Snow's death. gold moment. I cannot tell you how big this moment was when it first happened. The entire world gasped when that knife went into Jon Snow's heart. Jon Snow has always been a big character, but because his storyline was separated from everyone else's, I, along with many viewers, didn't really care too much for his story. He was just another Stark and the most memorable name of the show. I mean, even people who have never seen the show know the name Jon Snow. And this season to me was sort of his season. He went from a moody bastard who's good with a sword, to Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, to a brave and noble hero who literally stared off at the main villain we've been hearing all along. This season made us realize that Jon Snow is our true main character. He's the only man who can save the world. And then just 2 episodes later, he's betrayed by his own men and murdered. My heart once again pounded out of my chest the first time I saw this. That little moment when he sees the sign and realizes what's about to happen always gets me. And then the first stab happens, followed by 4 more stabs right into our gut. I felt like the world was falling apart. I felt any shred of hope I had rekindled from season 4 leave my body as I watched my hero die right in front of me. And then Ollie shows up to give the final 6th stab, and that's it. Jon Snow is dead. At this point in the show, we are all used to big deaths, but this one was just too far. All I could think in my head the whole time was, I can't believe it. It's his turn now. It's Jon Snow's time to die on Game of Thrones. Because every character is going to meet their end at some point, it seems. And then, the fact that every season of the show ends on an epic wide shot implying either triumph or doom makes it stand out so much more that they decided to end season 5 on a close-up of Jon Snow dead. Boom. I remember the year-long wait for season 6 when everyone hypothesized how Jon Snow could come back, because this was the death that everyone felt just couldn't stick. He had to come back. And thus ends the most depressing episode of the most depressing season of Game of Thrones. God, that was a lot. What's our final stats of this season? We got an astounding 6 greens in a row, 1 cyan leading to the end, 2 blues approaching the climax, and a wonderful purple to finish it all off. This season is the definition of slow build-up, which leaves us with a total score of 4.7. At this point, it's practically a regular thing, so screw top 5s, it's my top 10 moments of the season. Number 10, Drogon Unleashed. Number 9, Jon Mercy kills Mance Rayder. Number 8, Jon becomes Lord Commander. Number 7, Shireen's burning. Number 6, Jon Snow executes Janos Slynt. Jon's on fire, geez. Number 5, The Tragedy of Stannis. Number 4, Night King Stare Down. Number 3, Arya assassinates Meryn Trant. God, that is so satisfying. Number 2, Jon Snow kills a motherfucking White Walker. And number 1, Jon Snow's death. So you can already tell that I'm not ranking this season low. In fact, I would rank Game of Thrones Season 5 a blue. It's got a lot of build-up, true, but the wait completely pays off in the last 3 episodes. I think many don't like this season because they focus on the weaker plot lines like Dorne and Arya, rather than look at the season as a whole, or even the best ones like Jon Snow's storyline. I also love how dark and unforgiving this season is. It really challenges you as a viewer to keep watching because you really don't see how the good guys can ever win. Next week, I'm ranking Season 6, which everyone, including myself, is excited for. My documents detailing all my rankings are in the description below. Please share your rankings and subscribe for more Game of Thrones next week. Thank you so much for watching. See ya.